one of my favorite things to do when I am handed a horse that somebody just rescued or somebody just acquired from someplace else, not even knowing that that was a flip, right? Not even knowing, like, you bought the horse from somebody who tells you this whole, like, oh, he's wonderful, whatever, and it turns out they've only had the horse for 2 weeks and they just did a quick flip on the horse and they grabbed it out of an auction house and they know nothing about it, but yet they don't tell you that because, well, that's the business they're in, is buying and flipping horses, you know, kind of fine-tuning little pieces or whatever, making sure that they're somewhat safe enough to ride, and probably only use that 2 weeks as a training evaluation more than actually putting any training into them. So you get this horse you know nothing about, and you weren't told anything about them, and even if you were, it was probably a lie. Or you made up your own story, which is a lot of people do. You know, they'll make up, they rescued a horse out of an auction house, and they'll make up a story because the horse, you know, was sensitive to having their ears touched and, you know, a little head shy, and they assume the horse was abused. But what they might not know is their horse, you know, doesn't like their ears touched in the cold weather, okay? Or their horses had a cut on the ear that had to be treated and they learned to get sensitive about their ear being touched. Or I had a vet that, you know, that was her big thing, was to twitch the ear, which I have no idea how anybody has ever thought that was effective. Maybe there's, you know, physiological proof that that does work, but I've never had a horse respond in a docile way when somebody's twitched their ear. So anyway, the only thing it's ever done is just created an ear sensitive horse. So you never know. You never know. The horse might have had its ear grabbed once. The horse might have had its ear cut once and needed to go through extensive treatment and, you know, grew ear shy. But because it responded in a don't touch me way, you know, you've created its own story and said, oh, it's been abused. Look at it. It's head shy. I have a horse that has a sarcoid on his ear, and he's not enjoying the treatment that he's getting for it, right? He's by no means ever been abused, but when you go to touch his ear, he's like, don't touch my ear. So that's why I'm using almost that example, is because I have a horse that's never been hit in his entire life. I've had him since he was 4 months old. I've known him since he was an hour old. He's never been hit, but yet if you go for his ear, he quickly picks his head up away, like, please don't do that to me. I don't like that. Okay? So anyway, one of my favorite things when somebody gives me a horse that they know nothing about is what I call going through their boxes. I love the idea that we're given this horse and, like, basically his storage box, his luggage. And now we're going to get to, you know, pop open that box and go digging through it. And we're going to find things that, you know, we could polish, you know, things that, like, a previous education maybe looks a little rusty, but we can polish it up. There's stuff that maybe we really want to save, like something. I had one horse where he was a breeding stallion and a show horse, and one of the cues that you gave him caused him to park out, which was super cool to find that. And instead of using the cue that I wanted to use for the thing that I was trying to work on, I said, okay, let's find another cue for that, because to him, the cue means this, and that's pretty cool to still have. So let's keep that. And, you know, you'll find stuff in there that you don't want to save, you know, like, for example, a horse that is head shy. Like, we don't want to save that. We want to help them through that. So let's throw that away and let's give him a different opinion about his head being handled or about fast movements around his face. And, you know, let's help him through education. Let's not go, oh, my horse is head shy, so we really need to just move real slowly around my horse so that we don't upset him in any way. And, you know, instead of helping the horse not be head shy anymore. So for me, it's more about let's go through their box ourselves. Let's not have the box have writing on it and saying he's been abused, he's been this, and we need to now cater our entire program based on around those issues. How about we pretend like we don't know anything? We find that part in the box, and then we say, how can we help you past that? How can we either get rid of it? How can we polish it up so you have a better understanding of it? Or how can we preserve it because it's pretty cool? So that's where I'm at with, when people rescue a horse and they want to have the horse's story be the most important part. That can't be the most important part. The most important part has to be where you go from here. How do you help that horse not have that story to lay on? How do we help the horse to not have that story be what defines them? Why don't we give them a new beginning that involves education and understanding and care and love and good health and good treatment and good handling and, maybe even some love and affection, but don't keep them in their box. Let's help them get the education that they need to move out of their boxes and give them a new life. Have a great day.